Okay, well, thank you so much for being here. Really appreciate your time and excited to hear from you about your current work and also how you went about kind of navigating your career a little bit. So if we could start off with you telling us your name and when you graduated Trachtenberg and what you're doing now.
Hi, my name is Rachel Orey. I graduated from the Trachtenberg School in the spring of 2021 with my Master of Public Policy. Later in the summer, I also completed my certificate in data science, did those through the combined program. I am now Senior Associate Director of the Elections Project at the Bipartisan Policy Center, where I've been for the last 4 years, which means I get to manage the organization's election-related policymaking, our state and federal advocacy efforts, as well as all of our engagements with the field.
So you don't have anything to do, right? You're not busy at all.
No, it's been a very chill and relaxed last couple of years.
Of course it has. So again, thank you so much. And I'm going to go ahead and get started on our 5 questions. So our first question is, what is the best networking advice you've received?
The best networking advice that I've received and like to give others is to be intentional. When I first came to DC, I was kind of overwhelmed with the idea of networking. And in my mind, it was this amorphous thing where you had to talk to countless people you've never met before that had nothing to do with your work. And I thought if I wasn't networking every single day, I was doing something wrong. What I found to be more effective is to really be intentional about what you're trying to accomplish. Are you trying to find a new job, break into a new field, get better acquainted with the field you're already in, and then go from there? Start small with a couple people that you know really matter to your career trajectory or your interests, and then let them point you in the right direction. I would also not be afraid to reach out to people. Regardless of how high up folks are, I generally find most people are pretty open to networking and meeting with you, even if you're really early in your career. People like to talk about themselves, so you give them an opportunity to do that, and they'll generally take you up on it.
That's great. And yeah, I mean, I definitely hear a lot that it can be overwhelming, and that's great information for folks to have. Okay, what specific action did you take that significantly impacted any of your job searches?
Yeah, there are a couple that come to mind. One is just doing the basics. Turn on a LinkedIn notification so you get an email notification when something that matches your criteria shows up. The second is always tailoring your cover letter and your resume to the job you're applying for. Even if it's just throwing in a couple keywords that are in the job description, that can go a long way. I've been hiring on my team for the last couple months, and you'd be surprised how many people put in a generic resume and don't even submit a cover letter. So spending time on those really key application materials can set you apart in a big way from other applicants. And then other than that, just being open to jobs that are similar to what you're looking for, but might not be the perfect fit. If you're early career, it can be good to kind of throw your hat in the ring in a couple different ways and see what works out.
I get asked a lot if people actually read cover letters. So I'm going to go with yes, they do.
Yes, and we've almost not always, but if an application doesn't have a cover letter, we almost always put it down a peg compared to the others.
Good to know. Okay, what have you found most helpful when you've had to prepare for an interview?
What I found most helpful is doing in-depth research of the organization I'm interviewing with, making sure that I can tie any of my interview questions back to the objectives that they're looking for. Because there are so many smart and talented applicants. What they really need to know right off the bat is whether you're a good fit for their team and their objectives. One other tool that I've seen be really effective recently is even just throwing the job description into something like ChatGPT and saying, write me a bunch of interview questions. You'd be surprised how good they are. Just thinking through a couple key anecdotes that you can use to pivot to. If you get a question that you're not quite sure how to answer, usually there are a couple like archetypes of stories of challenges you've encountered or skills you've used that you can use to answer a question on the spot.
I'm going to go off script a little bit with the questions and just ask, so, people worry about the kind of crazy questions they might get in interviews. And had you experienced that either as an interviewee, or is that something that you like to do as an interviewer? And how on earth do you prepare for the kind of out there crazy questions?
I would say that 95% of the questions I ever asked or have gotten asked have been pretty rudimentary. I think that if an interviewer is really trying to throw you off, it might be a bad sign. That said, there are times when, especially later in the interview process, once you have a candidate you're pretty confident in and you want to see how they think on their feet, you might have some more challenging questions there to really push that candidate to their limit so you know what those limits are. I wouldn't say that they're trying to throw you off. I think they're just really trying to get an understanding of where your skills and knowledge lie to make sure not only that you're a good fit for the team, but that the team is a good fit for you. And so at the end of the day, I don't think there's as much you can do to prepare for those questions rather than just trusting your experience and your knowledge in the moment, doing what you can to stay confident when they're trying to kind of like test how you respond in the moment. Um, I wouldn't let those kind of like fringe questions distract from the vast majority of the interview questions, which are really quite predictable.
Great, great. How did you talk about or showcase your capstone to potential employers?
I already had the job I had now when I graduated with my degree, but so I haven't spent much time sharing my capstone. But what I have done a couple times in job applications is feature research that I did through just general classes I took during my MPP. For example, I was once applying for a job at an environmental policy firm, and I didn't have much hands-on professional experience in environmental policy. Instead, what I did in my cover letter was in my paragraph about my MPP education, I talked about a paper I wrote in, I believe it was Professor Liquidy's decision modeling class about kind of assessing environmental policy and sea level rise. And I used that as an opportunity not only to show that I had a personal interest and passion in environmental policy, but that I had some applied research experience. And it was also an opportunity to elevate the MPP in a way that made it applicable to the job at hand. Because I think employers are sometimes a little unsure of whether someone with a graduate degree but less professional experience is going to perform in the workplace in a way that others might. So really using that to highlight technical skills rather than just another degree on a resume.
So it sounds like thinking broadly about experience and not being completely focused on if something is work experience versus experience that you're getting through the program, for example, is worthwhile, and then making sure that you communicate to the employer why that experience is worthwhile. Is that what you're saying right here? I think that's what we're talking about.
Yeah, certainly. I wouldn't discount any of the research or experience that you've done in the coursework. When I see that on a resume, I see someone who's been intentional about their education, and it all creates a comprehensive picture of your experience and qualifications as a candidate. I think it also shows that you're like willing and able to meet the qualifications and to be creative. So yeah, I would definitely include any relevant research that you've done or papers you've written or memos from the MPP in your applications.
Terrific, terrific. Okay. And the last question that I have is, what specific action have you taken that you think's been most impactful on your career advancement, and also any suggestions that you have for others as well?
Yeah, so I have most of my career advancement has taken place within the Bipartisan Policy Center. I started kind of being split between a couple different policy areas, and over the last 4 years have developed quite a specialization within election administration, which has given the opportunity for me to advance quickly because of needs in the field and needs in the organization. But when I came into this organization, that wasn't at all what I thought I would be doing. So I think one of the key pieces of advice that I could have based on looking back over my last 4 years is just being a little bit nimble and flexible to meet the needs of the team that you're on and the field that you're in. And it's like if an organization has a rapidly growing department, you may want to kind of lean in that direction and look at what skills you have that could be most transferable. I feel like I was gonna, might pause. I was gonna say something else there and I can't remember what it was. Most impactful. I don't know. Was that a sufficient answer?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
absolutely, absolutely. Um, I mean, I think that idea of being flexible is definitely something that our students can understand and appreciate, since a lot of people who come into the program and even are partway through the program don't know exactly what it is that they want to do. So the idea that employers also like that kind of flexibility is actually pretty empowering. So I think that's terrific. I just want to throw one little extra question in there because you did the data science certificate.
Mm-hmm.
Are there, obviously not every one of our students will be doing the data science certificate, but are there certain technical skills that you think are really important for students coming out of the program to have, knowing that, and I'll just put in a plug for this, we have, when you're a student, a free subscription to LinkedIn Learning, which allows people to explore all kinds of different technologies and programs and things like that. So I don't know if there's any kind of something that they might want to focus on to enhance their candidacy for positions.
Yeah, so the data science certificate gave me a lot of really nuanced technical skills that I have been able to use over the last couple of years doing kind of more quantitative policy analysis. But my experience doing hiring for this team and BPC at large over the last couple of years is really to nail the basics. You would be surprised how many candidates don't, they say they're good at, Excel and analysis, but then when you actually start asking them questions about it, it's clear that they don't really know how it works or aren't able to use those tools that we use every day in an advanced way. So I think the course that I took during my MPP that was most impactful was decision modeling with Professor Linquity. And that was all applying kind of complex data modeling, but doing it through Excel. And it gave me much more sophisticated use of the program that was able to set me apart from other candidates. Because I think a lot of policy organizations, some of them use like Python and R, but even just having a strong understanding of Excel, being able to create charts that are understandable and convincing. So that in terms of data, I would say nail the basics before you start getting worried about learning how to program, even though that is great too. And then the second thing that I think is most important is just being a good writer. That is the need that when I talk to employers at other policy or public administration organizations, the number one skill that they need but aren't able to hire for is writing, because that's a really hard thing to teach on the job. And being able to write not only policy memos, but like op-eds or blogs for a general audience, being able to exercise those different types of writing is essential. And if you can nail writing as a skill, that would immediately set you apart compared to other candidates.
That's terrific. Thank you so much. And sorry, I threw an extra question in there at you. Um, Thank you so much, Rachel, for your time and for really practical and actionable results, which is, advice, which is exactly what we're looking for here, as well as some inspiration. And I think you gave that as well. So really appreciate your time and for providing these great tips to our students.
Awesome. Thank you. Thanks for taking the time. I hope that it works out.
Great. All right.